Okay, so people often ask me what I'm working on with my swing, and there's many things, and it's obviously changed over the years as I think I've gotten better, and my swing's gotten a little bit more technically sound. So at the moment, here's what I've got kind of on my list, and I don't practice it all at the same time, but let's just go through it kind of one by one. So first tendency I have with my setup is I get a little bit soft with my kind of lower back. I get a little kind of hunched. Now, no one needs to be like crazy straight with the back, but your lower back being super hunched, to me it feels a little stiff kind of in the lower body, like I can't turn properly. So I do have a tendency to do that. So I'm trying to get my lower back just ever so slightly straighter, not excessive, but just a bit. I also tend to get, I would say, a little forward side bias with my setup. So I get a little bit here. And it doesn't feel like that when I stand over the ball. This feels neutral to me, but when I look at the face on cameras, I see that I'm here, which just kind of presets me for all kinds of bad stuff. So when I set up, I got to feel a little straighter in the lower back. And for me, I have to feel my hips bump forward a bit at the same time as my upper body shifts back a little bit, not tilts back, but shifts back, and a tad bit close to the target. For me especially, and most people I see, you have to really push your setup. It's sometimes going to feel pretty awkward if you actually get it in the right spot. From there, I have a tendency to do this. So I take the club back a little low early with the forward shoulder and kind of extend it upward with my chest in the backswing. So I kind of get into this position, which if you were to do nothing, if you were to just swing from here, you would actually be really quite steep, which I'm not. So I know I'm, if anything, I usually fight being too behind me and too shallow with the club. So I'm kind of fake shallowing the club, so to speak. So from this kind of position, I'm exaggerating a little bit, but this is sort of where I am, to be fair. I then have to get a little bit of, call it slide or sway with the lower body, which helps get the club this way. I also have to kind of disconnect my chest from my arm swing, so I have to kind of pull down with the arms. That's kind of the only way I can get the club to be inside out and not too steep. So, I mean, many times over the years, I've tried to slow down the speed of my arms. I've tried to keep my arms more connected with my body, but it's kind of taken me a while to realize that I'm kind of presetting myself to have to do all this stuff. And then, from here to expect me to stay connected or not slide or open my body properly is not really realistic because I'm not really in a position to do it. So what I need to feel right now, going up to the top, is, if anything, I can let my head feel kind of tall and a bit lateral as I start back. So it sort of takes the plane of my shoulders a little bit more level and a little bit less steep. So a little bit of that to start. And then obviously it's just for drill purposes, but from here, I try to feel like this chest points down a little bit at the top of the swing. So what I'm looking for is a little bit of angle between the lower body and the upper body. And you'll see that from a lot of extremely good players. This will be a rep I would do in practice. Head moving away, chest getting down. So these are okay, I would say. I try not to get too obsessed with how I strike them when I do this drill, because I'm obviously putting myself in a little bit of an awkward position, for my feel. I mean, the reality is this is a little bit more of an awkward position. The comfort, I think, zone for me is a lot of this. So to get rid of a little bit of the slide, I end up having to really feel this way. So that's kind of the last note I have, is that once I get here, I need to feel here. And I've really never had luck making that happen. And I can kind of see why now, because if I'm already extended kind of too far up with the chest, leaned, if anything, I'm tilted back towards the target, it's sort of unlikely that you're going to just nicely unwind on this forward side. unwinding on this forward side is just gonna absolutely lumberjack this thing to hell. So it wouldn't really make sense to do that. Your brain wants to do that. And I think that's why I've never had any luck getting my sort of lead side hip to behave properly. I also, in the backswing, would do well to get a little bit, sort of more, Larry calls it a little bit more sort of structured with the trail legs. Like I tend to get sort of sloppy in this way. So trying to feel a little bit of load into the trail side with my hip at the same time as the back leg straightens slightly, at the same time as getting this inclination of the chest. So that to me is, if I can get all of that working much better, I know for sure I've made some reps recently where there's a ton of speed, the launch conditions are better, like I'm not hitting it too high, which I've been doing recently. I actually tend to hit down the ball more and actually compress it a bit more. So let me see if I can put a couple together, talk you through these. That setup feels extreme, but I'm assuming it looks okay. I'm gonna feel here in the backswing, here to start my downswing. That felt pretty good. Let's take a little high speed look. The cameras do not lie, as I always say. So this setup looks a lot better than it did before. I was definitely getting too rounded with this part of my back. So the pelvis was sitting a little bit too much inward. Now I don't need to go any further than this. This is plenty. And your upper back doesn't need to be, dead straight, that's for sure. Your head doesn't need to be tilted up. Your chin and eyes can be sort of facing down at the ball, which I have there. I just need to get a little bit less soft with that posture. Now, from the face on angle, I felt like I was like a mile this way with my upper body. That is pretty neutral. I could probably take a little bit of this tilt out, but I mean, it's pretty good. It's pretty good. I may have overdone this upper body a tad, but it's this overall, this is much better. Lower body underneath me, upper body is nice and neutral. So back to about hip high. This seems like a pretty good start. I haven't, started tilting backwards, that's for sure. Lower body is staying a little more underneath of me. Yeah, I did an okay job here. I would say to here it's pretty good. I tend to get to the top of the swing and I really should be done around here, and I'm kind of reaching back a little bit further. I think that may also have something to do with I'm setting the wrists a little late, and I don't want to hinge excessively by any means, but I think if I was a little more here, then by the time I got to here, which is where my chest is finished turning, if the club was just a little bit closer to parallel, I don't think I would feel the need to keep reaching for it. But anyway, that's starting to get a little picky. Overall, this is 1,000 times better than where I've been in the past. I have a little bit of this angle, just a bit, and this is a drill, so it's probably, if it were measured, this is probably even a little bit more than I need to do, but that's fine. And then from here, trying to feel that lead side clear reasonably well. There's always some lateral, there should be, so you should see me move back towards the screen a bit as I rotate, which is not bad. It's not going to happen in one swing, but it's better. It's better. I generally slide a hell of a lot more than that. Well, thin, but decent one. The other thing I find is when I do a good job, sort of, let's call it, mechanically, so getting myself in a little bit more of a position that requires less compensation on the way down, I kind of find that my club head speed naturally gets high, like I don't have to swing hard. So it's not that I couldn't swing my 7-iron that fast previously, but I would have to push hard, like I'd have to physically try, like whatever you want to call it, hand speed or effort to get the club head speed up there. Whereas that one, I kind of felt like I got to a good spot in the backswing, used my kind of forward side hip to initiate the downswing, and speed was a little bit more naturally produced that way. Yeah, same with that one. Those are both pretty good. Let's take a little look. This is not bad. So this leg's a little soft still, so there's a little bit too much flex maintained in that trail knee, but it's definitely better. You can see from this angle, it's not, it's not as flexed. It just looks a little soft here. I think for me, if I can feel a little more load that way into the trail side and a little bit more height to the knee, a little bit more extension of it, I think that leg work could be even better. But overall, this is a much better position. Okay, so let me see if I can get a little bit better structure with that trail leg like we just looked at. Good. So when I do that, obviously pushing it a little hard for the drill, I tend to actually get a little bit more of my angle of attack back. So I think the sort of the sloppy, soft legs, I think it makes my body want to do this, and then it makes my body want to do this. So I think a little bit more here with the lower body in conjunction with this gives me back a little bit of my natural angle of attack. So like that one I'm happier with because my dynamic loft wasn't excessive and I was hitting a few degrees down. And I can kind of feel it like off the face. I can just feel like I'm compressing the ball a lot better. Now, there's still more to be done, I'm sure. Be happy with that. So this is a bit closer to what I'm trying to achieve. And numbers aren't everything, but as a drill, being less into out is a nice sign. I would still like to be a couple degrees into out, so I'm not chasing zero by any means. But I'd like to see a little bit more angle of attack and a bit lower dynamic loft. And for me, I can hit the ball further than I'm used to. I'm used to carrying the ball more like 180. So that one was me trying to actually push the drill a little bit harder. So trying to get exaggerated here and really exaggerated here in the downswing. That's a pretty good one there too.